Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Jaws and we're back with some more sauce. Now, people been asking how do we make these name pendants covered in diamonds and keep them low poly and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna get straight into it and show you how it's done the easy way. So yeah, first thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to find yourself a decent font. Once you've got your font, you want to type out your word in Photoshop like so. First thing, we're gonna make this text white, okay, because we're gonna be looking at the edging. So we're gonna use strokes and we're gonna use multiple strokes here. So first we're gonna make it wet and then we're gonna do a black edging with a stroke. And you can see if you've only got one stroke, if you click the little arrow next to stroke, it will open a new one for you. So make sure you got a few strokes. We're gonna basically create a black one, and then we're gonna extend the next one out a bit, and then we're gonna make this one white, but obviously we want to see how thick it's going. So obviously get that as thick as you want it in black, and we're gonna make a third one and we're gonna make it thicker too, and then we're gonna go back to the second one, we're gonna turn it white. So we're gonna basically create a gap between them because this is how our 3D model is gonna be. Now we're just gonna play around with the sizing of these and just get it looking kind of how we want it to look, you know, because at the end of the day this text is how your 3D pendant is gonna look. So just spend the time getting it right and making it look how you want it to look. And then once we're happy with it, we're going to go ahead and export it as a PNG. So we're going to do two exports for this one. We're going to create a folder as we always do when we're making a chain. So I've just written the word queen because I didn't want to keep using the word drills. It gets a bit boring looking at the same word. So we're going to create a folder called queen, and we're going to save this as PNG, but we're just going to call it one. And then we're going to want to create a backing plate for it. So we're going to want to basically have the same shape, but we want the whole entire inside to be black. So I'm going to do a color overlay and I'm going to fill it in black, and then that white stroke I'm going to turn that to black too. And then you're going to see there's a little gap where the Q is, so I'm basically just going to paint that little gap in. Now it might not let you do it because you're going to need to rasterize the layer, as you'll see when I paint on it in a second. Now it gives me the option to say okay. If you don't have that option and you need to rasterize the layer, all you need to do is right click on the layer, go to rasterize layer and click on it, and that's it guys. So next we're going to export this, and obviously for this one we're going to be calling it number 2. So we've got 1 and 2, the top one and the bottom one. And then once that's done, we're going to go ahead and open up Inkscape. When we get the Inkscape pop up, we're going to go to open. And then we're going to find our files. We're going to go to the Queen folder. We're going to open up 1. And then as soon as that opens, we're going to go ahead and open up number 2 as well. So we're going to go File, Open. Find our folder again. And then we're going to open number 2. Now all we want to do is trace the bitmap on these. So you can see we've got trace bitmap up there. We're going to click on it. And then we're going to do apply, and then I'm going to hold control and I'm going to zoom into a spot where the black is close to the line, like here. And then you're going to see this blurriness appear. So if we click outside of the box and then head towards the box and then click and then hit delete, that's going to get rid of like the fuzziness around the edge, and that's going to basically, when we save it, it's going to save it as a SVG. So we're going to do save as and just hit OK, and then we're going to just repeat the process for this one. It's exactly the same. Click on it, hit apply, zoom in, control and mouse wheel to zoom in, and basically click outside of the box, move into the box a little bit, and then hit delete. And then we're going to go file, save as, and it's going to save it as an SVG. Okay, so now we're going to want to go ahead and open up Blender, and we're going to import them SVGs. Make sure to do import as SVG, not SVG as grease pencil, because that's wrong. And then obviously you're going to need to locate the files one at a time. I'm going to select that, we're going to open it, and then we're going to do the same thing for the other one. Okay, so once they're both in, I'm going to select them both together and I'm going to scale them out. That's just going to help me to look at it better. Make sure that you do them together so that they don't get unaligned. And then basically we're going to move it upwards a little bit so there's a bit of separation between them so we can see what we're doing. Right, once we've done that, we're going to want to basically make it thicker. So we're going to go to the data tab and we're going to find geometry. We're going to open that up and we're going to go to extrude. And you can see that makes it thicker. So You might need to type in the number if you want it thinner than it's going, but generally you can just use the clicker buttons or kind of drag it with your mouse, but just find the desired height what you want it to be. And then we're just going to create a duplicate of that. So Shift and D, we're going to move it around with a mouse wheel just to see that we've got it. And then we're going to right click. It's going to lock it back into the original position. And we're just going to hide it. We're going to use that later. So we're going to do the same with this one. We're going to thicken it up with the geometry. But the other one we made, we're going to be using it to cut the shape into the diamonds later. So just keep that hidden for now. And just work on getting the size of these two right. So it's all visual, guys. You just want to be looking at it. Now you can see this is overlapping a bit. We are going to boolean it to kind of get rid of that, but you can obviously reduce the size so it's not overlapping so much, or you can just wait until we boolean it. It's totally up to you, but I like to make it kind of so it's only overlapping a tiny bit. And just kind of get a look of what it's going to look like, the pendant. Like I say, this is all visual, so you want to be looking at this and just looking at it from different angles and getting it how you want it to be for now. Now, I'm going to take the extra one we made and I'm going to make it really thick like this. When we do the boolean on the diamonds, we're going to want it to be able to cut straight through them, so we need it nice and tall like this. So I'm just going to select all three of them, convert them to a mesh, and we're going to delete these white bits because we don't need them anymore. And I'm just going to hide that big one again. And if we remove the material, you'll be able to get a better look at it. Right, next we're going to add a boolean modifier, and we're basically going to cut the top one short with the bottom one. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to select it, and then we're going to add modifier and generate boolean, and then we're just going to use the eyedropper to select the bottom one. This might take a few seconds, and then you're going to see that basically the bottom one's just cutting the top one short, so they're perfectly aligned without overlapping. Okay, so if we remove the material, you'll be able to see what it's going to look like as one. Don't worry too much about the join line between them at the moment, because when we join them together, that's going to disappear. Just take the material off of that big one and then hide it again. Now, you might feel that maybe the outlines are not as thick as you'd like them and stuff, but that's totally up to you. When you come to make yours, obviously you might want to thicken up the stroke in Photoshop to give you more gaps, to obviously show more diamonds. These are quite tight together, these lines, but once you're happy with them, we're gonna go ahead and basically add a diamond. Okay, so I've just added a diamond from Jewelcraft. I've actually just made a video on how to decimate these in itself, but we're going to be running through that here anyway in case you haven't seen it. So we're going to be looking at it from the side angle, going into edit mode, turning on the X-ray mode, and we're going to be getting rid of these vertex at the bottom. And then we're going to zoom in, and we're just going to basically select this bottom layer of vertices and drag them down. And then we're going to tab back into object mode, back into edit mode after selecting the prong, and we're basically just going to shorten it so it's the same length. Now it's very important we decimate these, otherwise your model is going to be sky high. So obviously add modifier, generate, decimate, click triangulate, and then basically bring them down. It shouldn't matter too much what they look like. Obviously you don't want them to be completely decimated, but just make sure to zoom out as if you was in game and realize that you're not going to see some of the finer detail. So get it as low as it can go without completely ruining the object. And then obviously we're going to do the same for the prongs and the diamond, so it's up to you how much you decimate it, but the more you do it, obviously the lower poly the model's going to be overall. Now once you've done the decimating, we're going to want to UV map these, and that's purely because we're going to be duplicating this diamond, and we don't want to basically have to try and UV map every diamond afterwards because it will take forever. So we're just going to cube project this and we're going to move that off, and then we're going to do the same with these, and we're going to move that in a different direction just so later we'll be able to texture those nicely. So we're just going to join them together, and then we're going to create an array. So we're going to add modifier, generate array, and we're just going to basically line these up where we want them to be. Something like that. Just get the gap so it's like consistent, so they look right. And then we're going to add another modifier, and we're going to do the same, but they're going to be going upwards this time. So we're basically going to be creating a whole sheet of diamonds. Just get them positioned nicely. And then we're going to duplicate these like quite a lot. We're going to obviously want to scale them down, so we're just going to do that. Might be a good time to turn on statistics. Just keep an eye on your statistics, make sure they're not too high, but ours should be fine because we've decimated them nicely. And then we're just going to line them up over our model and try not to have too much excess because it will slow the computer down. We are obviously going to delete the ones that are outside of the pendant, but if you have absolute millions, then your computer's going to be running like a slug. But yeah, just get them in position, just kind of just overlap it slightly so it's looking something like this. And then once you're happy with them, we're going to apply both of the array modifiers. And then we're going to hide our pendant, and we're going to bring back that extra one we made earlier. This is our cutting tool. And we're basically just going to do the same thing as before. We're going to boolean it, but we're going to basically be cutting the queen out of the diamonds. So we're going to select the diamonds, and then we're going to add a modifier, generate boolean, and then we're going to eyedropper the queen part. Once that's finished, that should cut into the diamonds nicely. If you hide the obviously the cutting tool, then you're going to see that. So that's fine. I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the modifier. Okay, now we're going to select the diamonds. In fact, let's delete this. We don't need this anymore. And then let's select the diamonds, and we're going to go into edit mode. We're going to deselect the diamonds, and then we're going to press C. It's just going to give us the brush tool. We're going to make sure to turn on X-ray mode before we start doing this actually. And then we're going to press C, and we're just going to basically select these like so, and then you're going to hold your left click and you're going to drag it around and paint them, and then you're going to right click when you're done selecting the area. And then obviously if you press X and then delete vertices, then that will get rid of that section. But we're actually going to zoom in and go in a bit more detail. Make sure you're not overlapping and deleting ones you want. So get a nice look on this, take your time with it, and basically just go around and do the whole thing. I'm going to speed this up, obviously. There's no point you sitting there for ages watching me doing this, but just make sure to be careful with it, and yeah, don't rush. Now, one thing I will say is that with the outside edge, if you had actually hand placed those diamonds, they'd probably look a lot better. But if you're not bothered about that, then obviously just do it like this. This is the quickest and easiest way of doing this. Obviously, if you hand place them, they're probably going to look better. But yeah, this is the quick method. Okay, so we're going to delete that right now. You're going to see some bits have been missed, so I'm just going to go around carefully and I'm just going to be box selecting these and deleting any loose vertices. The reason I'm not going into mesh and deleting loose cleanup is because some of these vertices are actually joined together, therefore they might not get deleted, so I want to make sure they're all gone. So I'm going to go around and do it manually, and then afterwards we will do delete loose just in case there's any random ones hanging around. Now I think that's all of them, so I want to obviously have a look at what it looks like, so I'm going to bring them back and I'm just going to tab back into object mode. As you can see, the diamonds are all inside the pendant now and obviously not overlapping, which can cause issues. Like I said before, if you had gone around the outside edge and hand placed those diamonds, it would probably look a lot better, but we're kind of going with the efficient and quick mode. You might want these infill bits as well, like not diamonds, just filled in. In that case, you would just delete those diamonds, but yeah, it's totally up to you. To some extent, you've got to use your own creativity, so I'm just kind of giving you some basic tools to use your own brain and do what you want to do. Alright, so I'm just checking the polys on these. This top one is really high, so the bottom one's not very high, the top one's high. Now obviously I could go ahead and decimate this like so, but the problem would be that if I did do this, which I am just doing it, but if I'd done this and then basically joined it with the bottom one after that, it wouldn't be a very good marry. So the best way that we are going to do this is to actually join them together and then decimate them. Even though the bottom one's lower and the top one's higher, it doesn't matter. We're basically just going to join them together first and then we're going to decimate them, because it's like trying to put a circle and a square together. Otherwise there's going to be parts that don't fit. So just going to backtrack and undo what I've done, and then basically join them together and then run the decimation process. Just make sure to keep an eye on it so you're not over decimating it, but obviously get as low as you can without kind of destroying the object. Don't forget to hit triangulate every single time. And yeah, you can see that that gap line starts to appear if I go too low again. So basically just going to bring it down as much as I can go without it getting destroyed and apply it, and that's going to keep our polys really low. So yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, the poly count on everything is 89k, which is pretty good. I'm just going to check the face orientation, make sure there's no red bits, which there ain't. If there was, then obviously you'd need to flip the normals. If you don't know how to do that, I've got videos on that. But I'm going to do the cleanup. Yeah, there's absolutely no loose vertices. And just going to rotate that up just to look at it without a grid. So yeah, it's literally that easy to do it. I'm gonna basically run through another little method of ways you can create edging and stuff like this. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hide all of this, and I'm basically gonna re-import the SVG again and just give you a different way of doing things. Obviously you could combine the two if you choose to, but yeah, it's just handy to have multiple ways. So I'm going to show you this way as well. So this way we're going to obviously just import our SVGs again. So I'm going to be starting with the back one because we're basically going to be creating an edge, and this one's going to be the easiest one to do it with, to be honest. So we're going to go ahead and extrude it as before, and once we're happy with it, we're going to convert it into a mesh. And basically I can't see any of these edges at all, so I'm going to remove the material. Again, I need to go into object mode, and then I'm going to go back into edit mode, and I'm going to use edges mode, and I'm basically going to use Alt and Shift and try and select one of these edges that I can see really easily. You might need to go around and do it a couple times, but yeah, that's gone all the way around, you can tell. So now we've selected the edge, we're basically going to duplicate the edge. So Shift and D to duplicate, move it around, make sure you got it, right click your mouse, separate the selection, and then we're going to go ahead and hide that. Now we want to convert this back into a curve, and then we're going to go to our data, And this time, instead of extrude, we're going to be using depth, and you can see it kind of gives you this rounded beveled edge. I'm going to reduce that number a little bit, which again, this is a nice cool technique to use for your chains. Just going to bring that back so you can see kind of what it will kind of do. No, you obviously you could do this as well if you wanted to do it like that. Personally, I think that's too thin. That's why I done it the other way with Photoshop. You can combine the two and get something like that. But yeah, for this one, we're going to be adding this edge. So once we've added the edge and we're happy with the size, we're going to want to convert it back into a mesh. So we're just going to select it and convert to mesh. And obviously you can duplicate this and drag it down so you've got one at the top and the back. Or the front and the back, I should say. Just giving you that kind of realistic edge in what pendants actually have, like IRL. But yeah, that's that. Now, if I bring in the other SVG, I can kind of combine the two. And then obviously you could, if you choose to, use this extrude and kind of make a combination of the two. As you can see, you've now got the square edging plus the rounded edging. Now, these are just two techniques of ways you can do things. Using your imagination, your creativity with these tools is going to go a long way. So obviously think about how you want your design to look and just kind of go at it, man. The best way to learn is to practice. So just kind of take these techniques and tips and things that you get off the guys and whatever, and just kind of apply it. The best way you're going to learn is by applying it, and yeah, in no time you're going to be making banging jewelry. So yeah, this is Drills. As always, I hope this has helped you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget, guys, if you become a member of the channel, like the people that have done on screen right now, then you'll be able to go over to the Discord and you'll unlock a whole range of help, support, and objects, items. Everything you can think of is in the Discord. There's different tiers, there's 3 different tiers, plus there's the premium membership. All the premium details is in the Discord. So yeah, shout out to all these guys. Thank you for supporting the journey. And until next time, this is Drills, over and out.